Double bag alert, double bag alert, double bag alert, double bag alert, folks. That's right. We got another double bag alert, folks. Yes, we got another one. Also, quick rant about Cameron Heyward holding out. What's going on, man? What's going on? And part 2 of the grades for the best conference in football, the AFC. I am your host, your GM, who has produced 7 All-Pros, 10 Hall of Famers, 6 Pro Bowlers, and has reset the market only 3 times. Kale, let's get into it. All right, folks, so let's go over these bag alerts because, again, who doesn't love the bag alerts? We over here at the Football Junkies podcast love the bag alerts, okay? So, with the first bag alert, we have Detroit Lions quarterback Jared Goff, who inked a 4-year, $212 million deal, okay? He has a $73 million signing bonus, $170.6 million in total guarantees, $113.6 is guaranteed at signing, and his average salary is $53 million a year. Now, let's be real here, folks. Jared Goff was sent to Detroit basically to die. Figure speech, not literally, but figure speech. Okay. When this trade originally occurred, many were thinking, Jared Goff is basically going to fall off. He's not going to be remembered, not going to be talked about, and all of these crazy things. But he's proven the critics wrong. Okay. Jared Goff right now has probably had his best stretch of football that I can remember seeing since coming into the league. Okay. He is probably in the best position possible for him. You have a stacked receiver core. You have the up and rising tight end in Sam Laporta. You have a great running back core. Your offensive line, of course, is stupendous from the left to the right and the right to the left. And you have a great defense. Okay. I would not be surprised if the Lions are going to be back in the same situation that they just were last season. I would not be surprised because their roster from start to finish is in a great place, and they didn't have to. They didn't have as many holes as a lot of other playoff caliber teams did have. So when you have that mixed with them addressing certain needs in free agency and not really breaking the bank for the players that they brought in free agency, it was a great situation. It's a great situation for Jared Goff to be in altogether, honestly. It's just a matter of, when are they going to, it will not win, but if they're going to win a Super Bowl, okay? Because right now, they're in a position to where they can continue to try to, make a run for the next, 3 to 6 years. Whereas you have a team like the 49ers who have a older roster and a lot of big contracts on their books. They basically have to win this year, right? And if they don't win this year, all of the moves that they made, whether that be trades and signings and bringing in people from free agency, was basically for loss. Okay. But, congratulations to Jared Goff. Now, to the second bag alert, safety Antoine Winfield Jr. inked a 4-year, $84.1 million deal to stay with the Buccaneers. He gets a $20 million signing bonus, $45 million in total guarantees, and $45 million guaranteed at signing, which he will be making $21 million a year, according to Spot Rack. Shout out to Spot Rack. When you look at Antoine Winfield Jr., he is a very unique safety. Okay, he's not the type of safety where, he's this crazy ball hawk and, he's always going to go for the ball and whatever the case may be. That's not him. Okay, he is someone where, he just gets the job done, and it shows in his stats. Okay, this past season, he had 76 total tackles, solo tackles, excuse me. Which ranked 20th overall in the league. Six, that's right, 6 forced fumbles, which was first in the league. He had 3 picks, of course, 25th overall. He had 12 pass deflections, which was tied for 23rd in the league as a whole, according to ESPN. Let's be real here, folks. Antoine Winfield Jr. Is definitely a safety that should be talked about more. Okay. Am I saying he should be talked about in the same rail as the Derwin James, the Minkah Fitzpatricks, the Harrison Smiths of the world? Possibly, because of his unique skill set and what he brings to the team. Okay. He has played a very pivotal role on that Buccaneers secondary since being drafted by them. Okay. He continues to just get the job done. Okay. You're talking about someone where if you need him to make a tackle, he's going to make the tackle. If you need somebody that's going to go for the pick, he'll go for the pick. If you need someone to make a play, this is Antoine Winfield Jr. Okay. And so, it's actually a really good deal because by the time the deal is over, he'll still be somewhat in his prime. He'll still be in his late 20s. So he could go and re-up for another extension and continue to play at a very high level because, since being drafted, he has been one of the best safeties in my mind, one of the best up and coming safeties. Okay. Just because of what he does on the field. He's not a safety to where you can box him in one or two different categories. He's just a do it all type of safety, a person that just gets the job done. And so, congratulations to both of them getting their bag alerts. Now, time for a rant, folks. Okay, it's time to do a quick little rant before we get into these grades, because I know once I get into these grades, not a lot of people are going to like these grades, but guess what? I have to do it. It is my job as your GM. Okay. So if you haven't gotten the news, yesterday around the same time when the NFL dropped the schedule for all the teams, which I will be probably doing a video or probably discussing about it probably next episode. A report came out from ESPN's insider Jeremy Fowler, basically detailing that Cameron Heyward is sort of in a holdout because he wants a extension. Okay. Now, I'm going to try to break it down, both the positive and the negatives of this situation, and I'm going to try to remain as biased as I possibly can. On one hand, I understand why you would want to sort of be in a holdout. I get that. Always pro player, always want players to get paid. That's why I emphasize bag alerts so much. But at the same time, there is a time and place for these type of discussions. Okay, because we have to be real. We have to be honest with ourselves. Cam is at a point in his career where he has more years behind him than ahead of him, right? And so when you have a player like Cam who is in the position that he's in, it can make things a little bit difficult to try to come up with an extension for him because he might be thinking one thing and you might be thinking something different, right? And so for the longest time, the Steelers have had a problem when it comes to ripping the Band-Aid off for their older players. Okay, case in point, you look at them keeping Ben for as long as they did. You look at Hines Ward once he got a little bit older, Troy when he got a little bit older, and company. I just don't know what it is, but it's a weird thing, honestly. And now you look at Cam. Cam is looking for an extension, and that's perfectly fine. But for this to come out publicly is the wrong move, because the problem with this whole situation is how much exactly would you want to give an older player who is coming off of a season where he was hurt, right? Because he can't be asking for, Chris Jones type of money, or DeForest Buckner type of money, or Jeffrey Simmons, or Justin Matabuke and whatnot. You can't be asking for that type of money. I'm sorry, because since your back to back double digit sack season, which was 2 years ago, you really haven't been putting up the best numbers. Okay. And there are games that, it shows your age. And then there's other games where you see, your influence and your production, and, why you play such a pivotal role on this team. So when you have those type of things, it's hard to make a decision. Case in point, look at how long the Steelers kept Ben. They kept him for so long, and they never had a plan in place for his successor. And in doing so, you have multiple drafts that went by where they never addressed the quarterback position, because they always said, oh, we have 7. When it's like, no, at some point you're going to have to just rip off the Band-Aid and just let it go. You're just going to have to. Okay. Now, am I someone that, that wants Cam to go? No. But at the same time, if his number is outrageous, then he has to go. Because what sense does it make that you, of all the players that have been wanting a deal, or an extension, or whatever the case may be, you're the person that wants to hold out? When TJ Watt was looking for money, he didn't hold out. He held in. He just didn't do any practices with the team. He did his own individual workouts on the sidelines. Same thing with Deontay Johnson, and I think as well as Alex Highsmith. So what gives you the right to do that? And I saw this on Twitter, and I was debating with somebody, another Steelers fan, with it on Twitter as well. And basically he was saying, with him being a team captain, it is his right for him to make this type of move. And I had to tell him, just because you're team captain does not give you the right to do that. Matter of fact, it's the direct opposite. Because with you being the team captain, everyone is looking at you. So if you're doing this, guess what that sends? That sends a message to where, oh, I can do the same thing. I can do the same thing. Ain't nobody can penalize me for it because Cam did it. And he's the team captain. No, it doesn't work like that. This is something to where you try to keep this as low key as possible, and you try to figure things out. And if things don't work out, well then, oh well, there's other options. But it also doesn't help that you publicly said on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it, that you're not taking a pay cut. So in some ways you sort of put the Steelers somewhat of a chicken hole, because you're not willing to take a pay cut. You're looking for an extension. Like it's just unnecessary drama going into training camp and OTAs. And we had just finished getting rid of the drama, with Kenny Pickett and Deontay Johnson and Mason Rudolph and all that different type of stuff. There's a bunch of players that are looking for new deals, but you don't see them holding out. You don't see Najee holding out with them declining his 5th-year option. You don't see, Pat Freiermuth holding out. You don't see that. They're coming in and they're working. So you need to be doing the same thing. I'm sorry. You just have to. Because that can make things a little bit easier compared to just saying, oh, I'm just going to hold out. Nah, I'm not coming at all. Like, no. We drafted some defensive linemen. They need to be taught, how to do things, what to look out for, the best maneuvers for this, the best maneuvers for that, those type of things. You say that you're the team captain, show it. Show it. Now, to the positive side of this, giving him an extension would definitely, open things up, because, if we are still in the market for, a true number 1 receiver, then, we need to have as much cap space as possible, just in case we have to give them a new deal or we have to absorb a substantial amount of money, right? So, depending on the extension will also depend on how much money can we absorb, convert, and whatever the case may be. So, it has its pros and cons, but it's just too much of a risk. It really is. Paying players, this at this point in their career when they're this, this old, a lot of times it backfires. And then, they say, oh, I want to play 2 or 3 years. And it's like, they get the money and then it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't like this. This was a bad move. And it's like now you're trying to figure out how you're going to spread this dead cat for like the next few years. And it's just unnecessary stuff, honestly. So that is my little rant with Cam. Now, on to the other little rant that I have. Okay. And my gripe is that there's certain teams who are going to be playing 3 games in 10 days. Now, again, as I've said before, pro player, through and through and whatnot, because without the players, we don't have football, right? Explain to me who in the blue hell will want to schedule 3 games in 10 days. I'm sorry, but we have to eliminate the business side of football at some point, okay? You guys want a longer season. Okay, cool. There's different ways around that. Having this, having something like that, it can take a toll on a player. 3 games in 10 days, that's a lot. That means they won't have a whole lot of time to rest, recover, and prepare for the next game. So it's not like, it's something that you can say, okay, try to play as safe as possible so you don't get hurt because we need you for the next 2 games. It's like, no, we can't do that. Especially if those 3 games are division rival games. You already know those games are going to be a whole lot more tougher because they're going to be more physical because it's in the division. And especially if it's later into the season where it's cold, you got that cold, times your body feeling the way that it feels. Oh my God, it's going to be horrible. Why in the world would anybody want to do that? And then you have games on Christmas. Christmas. Who in the world would want? Listen, I can speak for me. I can't speak for everybody else. I can go without watching football on Christmas. I can. Okay. Thanksgiving, I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna argue with you on that. Okay. I'm just not. Christmas, that's where we draw the line. That is just where we draw the line. Let the players be able to enjoy Christmas with their families, with their kids and whatnot. Not being on the road or playing at home. Please. Please. Because when you boil it down, they don't have enough time to rest, recover, and do whatever they need to do to be at their best for the next game. They don't. They really don't. And it's so frustrating because I understand that, we want to see more games. We want to see more highlights. We want to see, more dynamic plays and whatnot. But we also have to realize that these players are humans and that they have families as well. And so, having, the season be longer, having them to play on certain holidays, that takes a toll. Not everybody can do that. That's why you see so many, players who they're blowing out their knees, they're blowing out their Achilles, they're breaking their collarbone, breaking their arm, their shoulder. That's why you're seeing so many freak injuries. Because players don't have enough time to rest, recover, and to prepare themselves for the play. And then, once you ask them to make a play, they do make a play, and in doing so, they put themselves in harm's way. So it's just a lot, honestly. It really is. It's frustrating at times. But, this is when you need the Players Association to, stop sitting on their hands and get up and fight this. Because that's not right. It's not. But who cares at this point, right? Nobody cares. Now let's get into these grades. Okay, grades for the AFC. All right, we're gonna start with the AFC East. Okay, AFC East is comprised of the Bills, Patriots, Dolphins, and Jets. Okay, Bills team's needs were receiver, edge, D tackle, safety, running back. Patriots team needs were quarterback, of course. tackle, receiver, cornerback, D tackle. Dolphins team needs were in interior offensive line, D tackle, tackle, edge, tight end. Jets was tight end, safety, receiver, linebacker, and corner. Okay, so let's start with the Patriots. Okay, of course, with the Patriots, they drafted Drake May, Jalen Polk, Caden Wallace, Layden Robinson, and Javon Baker, Marcellus Dial. Excuse me if I'm butchering your name. Joe Milton III. That man, Joe Milton. And Jaheim Bell. So I decided to give the Patriots a B. And the only reason why I did that is because, yes, they hit on the quarterback, and they also got two receivers for him. It's just a matter of how are they going to do things with Drake May? Are they going to plug him in week one, or are they going to let him sit behind Jacoby Brissett for a few weeks and then put him in? That's the only upside that I have with that. Now, when you look at the rest of their draft picks, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, those are some really good receivers, especially Jalen Polk. He was in that receiver core with Roma Dunze, and what in company. So, it's only up. It's only up for all of those Washington receivers, because all of those Washington receivers were dynamic in their own respective way. Okay. Now, going on to the Bills. The Bills did not have a first round pick. So with their first pick in the second round, they drafted Keon Coleman, Cole Bishop, Dwayne Carter, Ray Davis, Cedric Van Pran, Edwin Alafocio. Excuse me if I am butchering your name. I'm not doing this intentionally. Javon Solomon, Tylen Grabble, Daquan Hardy, and Travis Clayton. So for them, and I'm sorry, Bills fans, if you might feel a little bit upset with what I'm about to say, but I gave them a C, right? And the reason why I gave them a C is because their draft really isn't that good. It just isn't. Keon Coleman, to me personally, he's not that dynamic of a receiver. He isn't. He doesn't really create a whole lot of separation. He's not a good route runner. It's just, he's good. Well, he's sort of good to average when it comes to catching 50-50 balls, but that's it. There's nothing, dynamic about him that's like, wow, like we could use that, in our favor to, really, create plays and put points on the board. That's not what you have with Keon Coleman, right? And when you look at, everybody else, Cedric Van Pran, definitely needed with them losing Mitch Morse to free agency. And then everybody else, it's we just have to figure things out, honestly, with all the constant changes and moves that they've made with coaching and players and whatnot. So I decided to give them a C. Not the best draft. The draft, for me personally, I feel like the Bills should have been more aggressive. I feel like they should have tried to trade into the first round and try to get one of those top receivers simply to replace Stephon Diggs in the role that Stephon Diggs play. But, I am a GM that's not on the team right now, so here we are. Moving forward to the Dolphins. Okay, Dolphins drafted Chop Robinson, Patrick Paul, Jalen Wright, Mohamed Kamara, Malik Washington, Patrick McCorris, and Taj Washington. Now with them, I decided to give them a C. And I know there's Dolphins fans that are saying, why are you so brutal when it comes to the grades? Come on, give us some slack, man. Come on. We don't need a lot of stuff. I get that. I get that. But the players that you drafted, it's no, just no. When you look at the first round pick in Chop Robinson, honestly speaking here, I did not consider him to be a first round talent. There was nothing about what he did in college that made me say, oh, he can be the franchise pass rusher or the star pass rusher for my team. I did not see that personally. Honestly speaking, here, I truly believe that the pass rushing class as a whole was not as strong as it has been within the last 3 to 5 years. Usually, with draft classes, in the past, there's been at least 3 to 5, pass rushing prospects that a lot of people like, right? And this one, it really wasn't. It really wasn't like that. Chop Robinson, you know, before college football started, probably was a first round grade. But as I was watching the few Penn State games that I was watching, there was nothing about him that's like, oh man, he just gets off the line so quickly. Oh, his presence is just menacing. Like there was nothing about that. Same thing with Dallas Turner. Same thing with Jared Verse. Same thing with all those guys. And this is no disrespect to them at all, but I just didn't. I just don't see that pop, that factor where it's like, yo, if I have them on my team, they're going to make a play by themselves. They are going to do something dynamic on this team. I didn't see that with Chop Robinson, honestly. Now with Patrick Paul. Patrick Paul is a very interesting prospect. Of course, he's raw, but his upside is amazing. Okay, Patrick Paul to me was definitely in that second tier of tackles that a lot of people were probably going to go after. Okay, when you look at his tape during the Senior Bowl, he was definitely one of the tackles that definitely stood out and definitely caught the eyes of a lot of GMs and coaches. And with him, going to the Dolphins, that's definitely a great, situation simply because he can learn from, players like Teron Armstead and company. So all in all, great situation for him. Now, when you look at the rest of their draft picks, it's a little bit rocky. Taj Washington, to fill in the depth for the receiving core, take a little bit pressure off of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Jalen Wright, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was the running back that ran like a crazy 40 times. So again, the Dolphins, are reconfirming that, their main attacking point is speed. Okay, they're going to beat you with speed. Speed. Fastest receiver, fastest plays, fastest this, fastest that. They're going to beat you as quickly as possible. Okay, so all in all, the Dolphins definitely could have done a better job with their drafting. But again, I am not the GM. Now, moving on to the Jets. The Jets drafted Alun Fashanu, Malachi Corley, Braylon Allen, Jordan Travis, Isaiah Davis, Quintez Stiggers, Jalen Key. Honestly, I'll probably give him a B. I'll give him a B. And the reason why I say a B is because they got, arguably either the best or the second best pass protection, tackle in this draft class. And Aluminum Fashanu. Okay. If you look at his tape when he was at Penn State, you're talking about somebody that was dominant from the minute they hiked the ball. He didn't slack off when it came to his pass protection. He didn't slack off, and try to, just, stay in one place. Like he was moving, okay? And that's what you need for, your left tackle. And he goes into a situation where, he doesn't necessarily have to start out, in week one. He can sit behind someone like a Tyron Smith who can show him how to, better his skill set, honestly speaking. So, in all in all, it was definitely a great first round pick. Malachi Corley, the Yak King, definitely a dynamic and unique receiver. I don't know. I don't want to be the person to say, oh, he's Deebo Samuel. He can do what Deebo Samuel's doing. No, I don't want to be that person. But I will say him going, to Aaron Rodgers, I'm very curious to see how are they going to use him with that Jets offense. because what it looks like to me is the Jets are trying to surround Aaron Rodgers with as many weapons as possible, which I'm not opposed to that. And they have an offensive coordinator who, in my eyes, is not an offensive coordinator. He is just Aaron Rodgers' buddy, or towel boy, as I will call him. But moving forward, now to the greatest of the greatest division in the AFC. And it's not the West. And it's not the South. It is the North. The North. The North. All right. Of course, you have the Bengals. You have the Ravens. You have the Browns. And you also have the six-time, 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 six-time Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. Yes, I had to be dynamic with that. Don't care about it. If you don't like it, you can skip this part. Got it? Cool. Now, we break down these team needs. Bengals team needs: tackle, D-tackle, cornerback, receiver, tight end. Ravens, it was interior offensive line, tackle, edge, receiver, safety. For Browns, it is tackle, linebacker, D-tackle, receiver, tight end. And with your six-time, 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 six-time Pittsburgh Steelers. Tackle, interior offensive line, receiver, corner, D-tackle. Okay? That's the last time. That's the last time I'm gonna do that. I promise. The last time I'm gonna do it. Who knows? So let's look at this. Okay. So with the Bengals, they drafted Amarius Mims, Chris Jenkins, Jermaine Burton, McKinley Jackson, Eric Ali, Josh Newton, Tanner McLanchin. Sorry if I am butchering your last name. Cedric Johnson, Dijon Anthony, and Matt Lee. Okay. So when we break things down, I decided to give them B. Now, to all the Bengals fans, do not be upset with me. The only reason why I'm giving you guys a B is because, yes, you guys did address a major need in tackle. However, I feel like drafting Amarius Mims was a little bit more risky than what people are saying. Okay. For those of you who don't know, Amarius Mims only played 8 games in college football. Only 8 games. So you don't have as much tape to really identify his strengths, weaknesses, things he can work on, things he probably needs to stop doing, all those different type of things. You don't have that because all you have is 8 games, right? And this is not to say, oh, he's not going to have a long career. He's not going to be able to be successful and productive. He's not going to be able to do this, that, and the other. No. But what I do value is seeing enough tape to where I can, identify and analyze, okay, these are, his 3 strengths. These are his 5 weaknesses. This is things that he needs to do more of. These are things he needs to do less of. This is the best direction for him, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. That's just how I view things. And this is not just for offensive line. This is for any player that I'm, scouting and looking at tape at. But Amarius Mims' upside is definitely up there. I would venture to say his upside was probably more than what Broderick was when Broderick Jones was coming out of Georgia a few years ago. So it is a risk, but we'll definitely see what happens going forward. Now, Chris Jenkins, that was definitely a good pickup, especially with them losing DJ Reader to free agency. You definitely have someone who can definitely stuff the run, and is definitely a playmaker. Okay. Jermaine Burton had a lot of off the field issues. So let's fingers crossed and, hoping that doesn't, follow him, going into the league. But all in all, he definitely, is going into a good situation. You're going into a productive, quarterback and a receiving core that's full of, veteran receivers who can show him, how to move and operate as a professional, professional athlete, as well as things that he can do to become a more dynamic and unique receiver. Now, going on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sorry, had to do it. Had to do it. With the Pittsburgh Steelers, they drafted Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, Roman Wilson, Peyton Wilson, Mason McCormick, Logan Lee, and Ryan Watts. All right. Here's the grade. A. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Steelers fan. So for all the people that think, oh, you're just doing that, you're just being favorite because you're a Steelers fan. No, I am not. Okay? I'm not doing this at all. When you break down their first three picks were hits, okay? By a lot of analysts and various people within football, they definitely rated Troy Fautanu as one of the best tackles. Me personally, I thought he was going to be taken a lot earlier, but for him to fall to the 20th pick, that was definitely great for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Them getting Zach Frazier, someone who was regarded as, one of the best centers in this draft class, along with, Jackson Powers Johnson and Graham Barton. For us to get him, is definitely a great pickup because since Marquise Pouncey's retirement, the Steelers have been trying to find, their anchor, their franchise center. They tried with the Kendrick Green experiment. We all know how that failed horribly, simply because he was not a center. He was supposed to play guard, but another story for another day. And then you had Mason Cole, who he wasn't, an elite center. He was just, a good, just a good to average center in my eyes. And I think you also have to tack on to the cap hit that he had. I think they just decided, it was just best that they cut him and just, move forward and whatnot. So, great for them. And then you have Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson, to me, is a very unique receiver because although he didn't get as much production in college, his skill set screams someone that's going to give defenses problems, okay? Mike Tomlin had him and Quinyon Mitchell go at it one-on-one during the Senior Bowl. And Roman Wilson, made this crazy dynamic, one-handed catch on the sideline and kept it in. So, and he was going up against arguably the best corner in this past draft class. So, it's just, he can do it all. He can block, he can catch, create separation. He can do all those different things. And then with us having the new receiver coach that we have, I definitely want to see, what things is he going to emphasize, what things is he going to have Roman Wilson to polish up on and to work on, as well as develop chemistry with both of his quarterbacks. That's right, both of his quarterbacks. Now, moving on to the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, Baltimore Ravens, they drafted Nate Wiggins, Roger Rosengarten, Adia Isaac, Devontae Walker, TJ Tampa, Rasheen Ali, Devin Leary, Nick Samak, and Sonosu Kane. Now with them, Steelers fans, don't get upset with me. I decided to give them an A+. Yes, an A+. And the reason why I gave them an A+ is because for them to get Nate Wiggins, the second best corner in this draft class and the fastest corner in this draft class, was great. They didn't have to move a single pick. They didn't. They didn't have to move up not one spot to get Nate Wiggins. And that's great. That's unique. This is the same situation when Kyle Hamilton fell down to them. There were multiple teams that needed someone like a Kyle Hamilton, and he fell right into the Ravens' lap. But, that's another story for another day because then I'm going to get upset about why we didn't get Kyle Hamilton. But moving forward. But in all jokes aside, Nate Wiggins definitely is going to be a very pivotal, productive player with the Ravens. Okay, he's going to be in a cornerback room with with a veteran like Marlon, Brandon Steffens and company. He is going to be able to learn how to be a true AFC North corner, while at the same time use his abilities to the best way possible. Because let's be real here, folks. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care, you know, oh my division is better than yours. No, AFC North is the most competitive division in the entire National Football League. Okay, and the reason why I say that is because literally all of their teams can make it to the playoffs. All of them, right? So when you have a division like that, there it's never going to be okay. We can slack off because they don't have this or they don't have that. No, they are just as dangerous if they have all their starting players or none of their starting players. Okay, so Nate Wiggins, great pickup. Now moving on to the other ones, Rosengarten. And let's look at, Rosengarten and TJ Tampa. Let's start with Rosengarten. Rosengarten he was one of those tackles that was in that second to third tier. So it'll probably take him some time to learn and to get his feet wet, but he is in the best position possible. The Ravens are one of very few teams, low key, who produce offensive linemen pretty well. Okay, when you look at their history, they have produced good guards, centers, and tackles. Okay, they have a rich history in doing so. So for him to go in there, he doesn't necessarily have to start week one, but I would not be surprised that at some point during this upcoming season that he will be starting at tackle. Now, when you look at TJ Tampa was one of the best physical corners. Okay, you're talking about someone who is a tackling machine, who can thump you, who can go up and get the pick. You're talking about someone that is just a dog at corner. Okay, me personally, I sort of wanted TJ Tampa on my team simply because of what he brings in his skill set. I know his skill set paired with Joey Porter Jr., you're talking about menaces. I'm talking about Black Air Force One energy. If you don't know what that is, look it up, okay? Him paired up with Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, Brandon Steffens, Marcus Williams, and Kyle Hamilton, that is a dangerous secondary, folks. That is a very, 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 very dangerous secondary. Okay, I would not be surprised if that secondary alone is top 5 based off of whatever major statistics people want to use. But A+ for the Ravens. Now moving on to the team that nobody really cares about because they don't win championships, nor do they really do anything in the division. The Browns. Yep, I said it, not taking it back, and I'm not editing that out. So the Browns don't have a first round pick due to them trading it for now their quarterback, Deshaun Watson. But we're going to go over things, okay? So they drafted Michael Hall Jr., Zach, Miles Harden, and Jovan Briggs, okay? For them, I just gave them just a plain old B. The reason why I gave them a B is because Michael Hall, even though he wasn't talked about as much, he was still a productive player for the Ohio State University, because you have to say the every time you pronounce Ohio State, OHIO. Now, moving on, Zach Zinter. Zach Zinter was definitely somebody that a lot of people were definitely talking about before he unfortunately broke his leg later into the season. Just want to see exactly, where are they going to put him on the offensive line and who is he going to be replacing. Jamari Thrash is a very unique prospect because there were some people that, had him as, a top 10, top 15 receiver in this draft class. Some people had him in like 20, 30. It just all depends on who you look at. So he's going to a receiving core that has, Amari Cooper, and they just traded for Jerry Jeudy. So it's a matter of how is he going to get used? Where are they going to put him at? Are they going to, put him on the outside or on the inside? Are they going to try to, do different things for him? Because whether we want to admit it or not, Kevin Stefanski with his play calling is pretty dangerous. So let's see exactly how they used Amari Thrash. Now, moving on to the AFC West. AFC West is composed of the Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs, and Raiders. Broncos team needs our quarterback, of course, corner, D tackle, edge, and tackle. Chargers is receiver, cornerback, interior offensive line, tackle, running back. Chiefs is receiver, tackle, cornerback, running back, interior offensive line. And the Raiders, their needs are quarterback, cornerback, tackle, receiver, interior offensive line. Now, with the Broncos, their draft picks are Bo Nix, Jonah Ellis, Troy Franklin, Chris Abrams, Drains, Aldrich, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, so I'm not going to butcher it, Devon Vele, and Nick Garugilo. I know I'm butchering that. So for the Broncos, I just decided to give them a C. Honestly speaking, I just feel like they probably should have tried to do more, but unfortunately they couldn't do more, simply because of the big move that they made to get Russ Wilson at the time. So a lot of the draft picks that they would have used in this draft class, they were eventually sent over to the Seahawks. So sucks to be them. But with them drafting Bo Nix, me personally, I just didn't feel like he's a first round pick. I just didn't. You just look at his skill set and it's just like there's nothing about him that makes it say, oh, he's a first round pick. I know leading up to the draft, there were some people that were mocking him as Drew Brees, and it's just like, okay, that's cool. That's not dynamic, but it'll get the job done. But with you being in the division of Patrick Mahomes, you need your quarterback to be dynamic, because there might be a situation where your defense can't bail you out, and you need your quarterback to make a few plays to win the game. And you getting Bo Nix really doesn't help that, me personally. But again, I am a GM that's not on the team right now, so I can't really make these type of moves. Now, going on to the Chargers. Chargers drafted Joe Alt, Lat McConkey, Junior Colson, Justin Abugie, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, Tarheeb Still, Cam Hart, Kamanji Vidal, Brandon Rice, and Cornelius Johnson. Okay, so for them, I gave them an A. They addressed, tackle, which is, great with Joe Alt. My only knock with Joe Alt is at times it just seems like he's just like a rock. Like he's just so stiff when it comes to him moving. Like for me personally, if I'm getting a tackle, I need somebody that's going to move, right? I need you to move the way I move, just like that. If you know that song, you know that song. With Joe Alt, I feel like he just uses more of his size and his frame to win matchups instead of technique and whatnot. And a lot of times to some people that's like that's a great thing, but it's like no, because if you go up against a technician of a pass rusher, they're going to find ways to beat you, right? So it's just I don't know with Joe Alt. And then plus with him playing at left tackle and they already having a left tackle, is he going to be able to play right tackle? It's just a whole bunch of question marks with that. But when you look at the rest of their draft picks, Lad McConkey, great pickup. Great pick up, all right? Lad McConkey is a great pickup. Brandon Rice is definitely another great pickup as well. I feel like both of those receivers eventually will probably be number 1 and number 2 receivers within the foreseeable future. I truly feel like the Chargers in some ways have given up on Quentin Johnson. I just feel like they realize they may have whiffed on him, and so I think they'll probably trade him away before the season starts. But all in all, for them, the Chargers definitely hit on a lot of their draft picks, especially with this being the first draft for for the Harbaugh regime. So let's see how things play out within the foreseeable season. Now going on to the Raiders. Raiders drafted Brock Bowers, Jackson Powers Johnson, DJ Glaze, DeCameron Richardson, Tommy Eichenberg, uh, Dylan Lube. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong. Trey Taylor and MJ Devonshire. Now, me personally, I feel like the Raiders should have been more aggressive in trying to trade up to get their quarterback. I just feel like them having Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew is not enough. Again, because you're in a division where you have Patrick Mahomes and you have Justin Herbert, right? You have both of those guys. And so you need to have a quarterback that can be able to, to perform. Because there might be a game where you might be in a shootout with one of these guys. And if you don't have a quarterback that can do that, then what are you going to do? What can you do? Nothing. You can't rely on the defense, right? Because the defense can only do so much. Sometimes the quarterback is going to have to win you a game. And those two quarterbacks, in my eyes, are not starters. They are backup quarterbacks. Okay? But, maybe I can be proven wrong. That's perfectly fine. Brock Bowers was regarded as the best tight end in this draft class. I just want to see how is he going to get used in this Raiders offense, because this Raiders offense to me is a little bit funky. It's a little bit weird. But more power to them. For them getting Jackson Powers Johnson in the second round, I'm not surprised, simply because leading up to the draft there were red flags coming out about Jackson Powers Johnson injury history. So I think that definitely affected his draft stock, because leading up to that, a lot of people were saying that he was going to be a first round pick. Okay. And when you look at everybody else, Tommy Eichenberg is a tackling machine of a linebacker. Okay. That's just the best way to describe him. He is a tackling machine. You talk about somebody that is just going to bring you down every single time that you try to get close to him. That's who he is. But moving forward to the Chiefs, unfortunately, yes, the Chiefs. Ooh, the Chiefs. Woo. They drafted Xavier Worthy, Kingsley Sumatia. Sorry if I'm butchering your last name. Jared Wiley, Jaden Hicks, Hunter Norzad, Kamal Hayden, and CJ Hansen. Now, Hunter Norzad is a very unique prospect. Okay, he by the RAS scores was considered an elite offensive lineman based off his scores. Right, with him going to the Chiefs, I wonder if they're going to use him as a guard, because even though he can play center and they do have Creed Humphrey, I would venture to say that their biggest need right now is definitely for a more productive guard. So he is definitely in a great situation. Andy Reid is going to show him how to be the best, the best person that he can be. And you're gonna be on a winning team. You could potentially win a ring in your first year. Let's see what happens with that. Xavier Worthy he's a project. He's a project. And I don't want to say, he's like John Ross, because that's low-key disrespectful. But, for the longest time, they have been trying to find, the Tyreek Hill replacement. And, they thought it would have been with MVS. Clearly that wasn't the case. And so with them, they're trying to get back to using speed to create those dynamic plays. So for them to get Xavier Worthy, to them is a high five. Me personally, I just don't see it, because he just strictly relies on his speed and nothing else. And we have seen that players with just speed doesn't really be the most productive players. But for them, I gave them a B. And if I also didn't say the grade that I gave for the Raiders, I gave them both teams a B. Not the best draft for the Raiders, a good draft for the Chiefs. All in all, only time will tell on how their players get used, especially their first round picks. But more power to them. Now, going on to the final division, the AFC South. AFC South is composed of the Texans, Colts, Jaguars, and Titans, right? So for the Titans, their draft needs are cornerback, tight end, linebacker, interior offensive line. Colts draft needs cornerback, receiver, running back, interior offensive line, and safety. Jaguars draft needs are cornerback, D tackle, tackle, interior offensive line, edge. Titans draft needs are tackle, edge, D tackle, receiver, and linebacker. Now, let's look at the Texans, okay? Texans don't have a first round pick because, if I'm not mistaken, they used this year's first round pick in order to be able to get CJ Stroud. Okay, cool. So with their first pick, they drafted Kamari Lassiter, Blake Fisher, Kalen Bullock, Kate Stover, Jamal Hill, Jawar Jordan, Solomon Byrd, Marcus Harris, and Ladarius Henderson. Now for them, I gave them a B, right? Solid draft. Not a bad draft, not a great draft, but, a solid draft. They got players, that can add depth while at the same time could potentially be future starters within the next 2 to 3 years, okay? You have Kamari Lassiter, who is a, Swiss Army knife when it comes to being a corner. If I'm not mistaken, he can play both inside and outside. So, that definitely adds, versatility along with, Derek Stingley as well. Blake Fisher, another tackle that was, in that second to third tier of offensive tackles. With him going into the Texans situation, he can definitely learn from, Laremy Tunsil, as well as, sort of get a feel of what exactly, he should be expecting moving forward. Now, when you look at the other draft picks, for instance, Kate Stover was regarded as one of the best tight ends as well. So let's see exactly how the Texans are going to use them, because last year the Texans offense definitely caught a lot of people off guard, right? Their offense was just flat out just being dominant. So with them, trading for Stephon Diggs and then trading for Joe Mixon and them having the receiving core that they have now tacked on with them getting another tight end, and another tackle, that definitely, continues to just re-enhance that offense. And then not to mention the defensive players that they drafted, that also provides more depth for them as well. So all in all, great pick, great draft for the Texans. Now, moving on to the Colts. Colts drafted Latu, Adonai Mitchell, Matt Gonclaves, Tanner Bortolini, Anthony Gold, Jalen Carless, Jalen Simpson, Micah Abram, and Jonah Lalu. So for the Colts, I decided to give them a B as well. Once again, like I just said for the Texans, not a great draft, not a bad draft, just, an okay draft. Okay. With them getting Latu is is a pass rusher who, although he has a lot of red flags due to injury concerns and whatnot, he was one of the few pass rushers that, I could definitely say, in the right situation, he probably could be, a good to great pass rusher. Simply because his technique is sound and he has, a little bit of explosiveness and speed with him. It's not necessarily, the most speed where, he's super fast, but, the speed is there. The explosiveness is there. The use of his hands, was definitely unique. It definitely caught the eyes of a few GMs and coaches, leading into the Senior Bowl, Combine, and then private workouts as well. So, all in all, great for them. And then for them to get Adonai Mitchell, that's another receiver for Anthony Richardson. For years, they really have not really done the best when it comes to drafting receivers. I mean, even though they did lock up Michael Pittman Jr., I just feel like they just needed to continue to add more to that offense to make that offense more dynamic in its own respective. But all in all, great pickup, great draft for the Colts. Now, moving on to the Jaguars. Jaguars drafted Brian Thomas Jr., Mason Smith, Jerrion Jones, Javon Foster, Jordan Jefferson, DeAndre Prince, Kalen Robinson, Cam Little, and Miles Cole. Now, their first two draft picks are going to be starters. Okay, especially Mason Smith. Again, as I said before, and a few episodes ago, if you don't know who Mason Smith is, if you want to know what his comp is, Stephon Tuitt. Do it, do it, do it, do it. That is who Mason Smith is. Okay, you're talking about somebody who, in the in the years coming, he is probably going to be a pass rusher that people are going to be talking about. Okay, you heard it here first. Brian Thomas Jr., another receiver for Trevor Lawrence. They're definitely trying to surround him with as many weapons as possible. So you have a very physical receiver who is going to give a lot of DB some problems. So can't wait to see how he matches up going forward. And then everybody else draft picks honestly. It's just a matter of will they be starters or will they not be starters? We know the Jaguars did have to let go a few people, trade away some few people, and I wouldn't be surprised if they trade more people as well. Simply because I know pretty soon they're going to want to try to pay Trevor Lawrence as quickly as possible. Now to the final team, the Tennessee Titans. They drafted J.C. Latham, Tavondre Sweat, Cedric Gray, Jarvis Brownlee Jr., Jaquan Jackson, James Williams, and Jalen Harrell. Now, for them, I decided to give them a B as well. And if I didn't say what grade I gave for the Jaguars, I'll say it again. I gave both teams a B. When you look at the Titans are still going through sort of the hard rebuild phase. So they're still trying to, build the offensive line as well as address other needs on the roster. So with them getting J.C. Latham was definitely a great pickup simply because he has gone public and has said that, he's not opposed to playing left tackle as well, even though he is a right tackle. He's not opposed to playing left tackle. You're talking about someone who is as strong as an ox and can just move, with the best of them. Okay. I want to see exactly where they're going to put him at. Are they going to keep him at right tackle or are they going to put him at left tackle? Me personally, I probably would keep him at right tackle, but, I don't make those decisions. Now, on to Tavondre Sweat, a prospect who was regarded as a top 5 D tackle in this draft class. Him being on that D line with Jeffrey Simmons is a 1-2 punch that, it's going to strike the fear in a lot of offensive lines because you're going to have to double team Jeffrey Simmons and you're going to have to double team possibly Tavondre Sweat as well. And even then, I don't even think that's enough. So let's see what happens with that. Now to talk about somebody that not a lot of people are talking about, but to me and a lot of other people, he was regarded as one of the best linebackers in this very small linebacker draft class, Cedric Gray. Cedric Gray is a linebacker who, honestly, the Titans need. Okay, you're talking about someone that has sideline speed, who is good in coverage, and who could possibly, match up with tight ends well. So I'm just really curious to see, how Bryce Callahan is going to use him, especially with that defense, with them getting L'Jarius Sneed and now having, Tavondre Sweat and then adding on, what they already have and Jeffrey Simmons. That defense is going to be a problem, folks. That defense is going to give some teams some problems. I would not be surprised if the Titans are, trying to get the second or third spot within their division. Would not be surprised. But I'm going to end this episode. If you guys like what you are listening, please follow us on Instagram at football_junkiespod. Again, that's football_junkiespod. You can listen to this podcast on any podcasting streaming platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. We are on there. Please, rate 5 stars with this podcast. It definitely helps us out to give us the content that you guys need. Pretty soon we're going to be uploading stuff on the YouTube, and we're also in the works on finishing up the process of creating an account for TikTok as well. So stay tuned. We're going to be pushing out more content as the as the off season starts to ramp up, and then the season begin. So stay tuned. And as always, I love you guys. Peace and love. I'm out.